Hello, hi, Paul here from SET. It's great to see you. I hope you had a really nice long weekend if you're in the UK like we did. Okay, so what I'm here today to do is I'm going to go through some aspects of the passive. Okay, and now I don't know if you've done the passive before or if you know much about it at all, but there are some aspects of it which cause problems for people in OET, which is a big problem because OET requires the passive. It's a way of writing, it's a way of phrasing things and saying sentences which sound more professional. Okay, so if you don't know how to use it, then you're going to have problems when it comes to your OET writing. Okay, so I've got a few things to ask about it. If anybody is there, if you're watching and you want to say hello or say where you are, please let me know. Pop it in the chat box. If you're watching this later on, that's great as well. There are going to be some questions today.
Please let me know. Pop it in the chat box. If you want.
So I'm going to go through a few things and then I'm going to ask some questions and you can test yourself and see whether you understand it properly. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, here we go. So when it comes to the passive, one thing that you need to be aware of is that all verbs in English are affected by three things. Okay, the subject-verb agreement or object-verb agreement. So for instance, if it was Paul, actually, let's use to do an OET one, Mr. Smith. Now, it's not Mr. Smith have, is it? Everyone knows that. It's Mr. Smith has arthritis. Okay, that's important. Okay, that's called the verb agreement. We need to get that right. Okay, so that one's incorrect. We don't like that. Okay, every time we say something in English, we choose a tense. Okay, we say when things happen. Okay, so we might use yesterday. Oops, let's put a capital there. Okay, we might say yesterday Mr. Smith broke his arm. Okay, we could do it like that. Or we could say something like recently Mr. Smith has felt tired. Okay, so there are going to be multiple tenses. We always say when things happen. In this case, past simple, and in this case, present perfect. All right. And a third thing that we always do is we always choose active or passive. Okay. Now, both of these sentences are active. All right. Both of them are active. That means we are saying that Mr. Smith did something. All right. Active equals we focus on who does something or on someone doing something, doing an action. In the passive, we focus on the action happening or someone or something. We focus on the action happening to someone or something. Not always, but most of the time in OET writing, it will be someone. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're switching the focus. We're not talking about someone doing something. We're talking about something happening to someone or something. So those three things are things that we always do when we use verbs in English. And we use verbs in English every single sentence. Okay, in every single sentence, that's what we do. Okay,
sentence.
No, that's how verbs and sentences work in English. We always choose these three things. So it's important for us to know the subject and the object. Okay, in all of these sentences, Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith is the subject. Okay. In this case, there is an object. It's broke his arm. Okay, in this one, it's arthritis. They are the receivers of the verb. Okay, the verb action. So if I wanted to turn this one here into the passive, what I would do is I would say Mr. Smith's arm was broken. Okay, or I put yesterday at the beginning. Yesterday, Mr. Smith's arm was broken. So now I've got here Mr. Smith's arm is my object and my verb has changed. It's gone from being broke to was broken. All right, a subject does an action. Okay, it's a noun which does an action. And an object is a noun which receives an action. All right, that's how we do it. We switch our focus from the subject to the object. Okay, notice in this sentence there's no subject. Now that doesn't mean that we can't introduce subjects sometimes. We can introduce subjects sometimes. We do that by using by, and we'll see that later on in some examples. But this is the basic, okay? All verbs are affected by these three things. We need to make sure that we understand that tense is when something happens. Active and passive is how it happens. Okay, they're not the same thing. So let's look at some golden rules, some important golden rules. Okay. The form of the passive is the verb to be plus the past participle. Okay, let me make this a bit bigger. That is how we make the passive. Notice up here, was broken. That's the verb to be plus the past participle. Most people know this, I think. If you don't, you need to do some more training. The point of this class, the thing that I want to show you is that we can use the passive in different tenses. All right, they're not the same thing. Tense and passive, they're not the same. You can use the passive in any tense. You can say if something happens in the past, the present, or the future, you can say it in the passive. All right? And what changes when we do it is the verb to be. That's what changes. And what does not change is the past participle. Okay? The past participle is always at the end of the passive verb. Now let me show you what I mean. Okay, let's take that and put that here. All right. Yesterday, Mr. Smith's arm was broken. Okay. I'm just going to start with Mr. Smith's arm. Okay. If it was in the present perfect, has been broken. Okay. If it was in the future, it will be broken. If it was in the past perfect. Okay, so what's happening there? What's happening? Well, let's look. We've got all of these are verbs. Okay, they're all verbs. I know they've got more than one word, but that's something that you need to be familiar with. All of them are passive. Okay, all of them are passive. So what thing stays the same? Look, the past participle stays the same each time. That doesn't change. There it is, the past participle, always there at the end of the passive verb. And what changes? It's has been, will be, had been. They all change. So take this one, underline that one. If you look at it, that always stays the same. It's the verb to be which changes in different tenses. Now what this does do is that it opens up a lot of questions, okay, about tense. Do you understand tense well? Okay, I would recommend that you do some practice on your tenses. Okay, it's a really, really important thing to get right. We need to know when things happen. What's the difference between the past simple and the present perfect simple? How do we use the present perfect continuous? How do we use present simple and present continuous? We need to know those things and know them well in order to make good passive. Okay, so I've got some questions, and I wonder if you guys will be able to do the questions, bearing in mind that we've got these rules. Okay, so let's have a look at the questions. Let's do 3. Okay, let's do 3 questions. I've got a few here. If you want to do more like this, you can. But here are the questions. I want you to choose. Should it be active? Should it be passive? And what tense should it be? Remembering these things here. Should it be active? Should it be passive? And what tense should it be? You've got the verb at the end of the sentence here. Okay? Or you've got a word at the end which gives you the clue, which will enable you to put the right thing in here. You have to choose, is it active? Is it passive? And what tense should I use? Okay. So if I put 1 minute on the clock, let's put 1 minute. Let's see what happens. Okay? Starting now. Okay, I know Siam, you're there. Nice to see you. Okay. Okay, all right, okay. So, what have we got here?
Okay. Okay, all right, okay. So,
sorry guys, some volume coming through. Okay, so Joanne's leg, something in 3 places in the car accident. Okay, so what this makes you think is that it's something that happened in the past. Okay, so if it's something that happened in the past, you're probably going to use the past simple. Now, the past simple of break is broke, but also I would say that this was the passive. So I'm saying it's the past simple passive. So that means it can't be broke. I need verb 3. I need the past participle of break, which is here. So I'm going to use past simple, and past simple means I'm going to use was. All right? Because it's always the verb to be which changes and the past participle doesn't. I'm going to use the past participle of break, which is broken. That's it. Joanne's leg was broken in 3 places in the car accident. Okay, if I look at the second one, now I've got a time phrase in the past 2 years. Now that leads me to think that it's the present simple, present perfect simple. This one past simple and passive. This one present perfect and passive. So both of these first 2 are passive. All right, let's make those green. Now, the thing about the present perfect is that it's more complicated than the past simple. Not just in terms of active, but also in terms of passive. So let's have a think about how that works. Okay. When we make the present perfect, it looks like this. Has plus past participle. That's the present perfect. But if you remember, the passive is like this. It's be plus the past participle. So we've got to combine those together. Okay? We've got to combine them. So what it has to do is it has to somehow get the has plus past participle plus the be plus past participle together. So we're definitely, my child has, third person singular, we're definitely going to say has. Okay. Now, vaccine. We need to use a verb here. The verb is vaccinate. And vaccinate is a regular verb. So it's going to finish with vaccinated. Okay. My child has something vaccinated. Now, because it's the passive, what we need to do is we need to take has plus past participle, be plus the past participle. We've already put has at the beginning and we've put the past participle at the end. So what we're left with is this past participle plus be. So that means we're combining those two together. What is the past participle of be? And the past participle of be is been. All right, that's going to go there. Has been vaccinated. Okay, so let's do an example. Okay, so the surgeon removed Mr. Smith's foot. All right, the surgeon removed Mr. Smith's foot. The surgeon is the subject. Removed is the verb. And Mr. Smith's foot is the object. Okay, so if I turn this to the passive, I have to put Mr. Smith's foot. Okay, if it's in the past simple, Mr. Smith's foot was removed. If I put it into the present perfect simple, okay, that's going to be like that. Has removed. All right. So now what I have to do is I have to get Mr. Smith's foot back there again. Mr. Smith's foot. I'm going to start with has. Okay. So let's say has. The present perfect can be in yellow. The past participle can, well, actually, no. What colour should we use here? We'll use a different. No, we'll do no colour. Okay, I'm going to have to put has at the beginning. I'm going to have to put removed at the end, doesn't change. And in the middle, I'm going to put been. Okay, because I need to have this, the past participle plus be. Been. Okay, let's put that in green. Okay, been has to be there because we need the past participle plus be. That's how that works. Okay, so has been removed is the full verb. That's how that works, how the passive works in the present perfect. It's a bit confusing. It requires a lot of practice if you want to get this right in the test. And it's a really important thing to get right. And then the third one, Sarah, something to take her medication over a period of 2 weeks. Well, that sounds like it's in the past. And it's the active. Okay. That is the past simple. And it's active. All right. So I'm hoping that those activities made some sense. If that's something that you'd like to do more practice on, if you feel like that's something that you need to improve, then get in touch with us. Okay, please let us know. You can find us on Google, SET English, and just type OET training or something like that. You can find us. We'd love to have you in our classes. We do language like this every day. In fact, I've just taken that section from a class I did earlier on. Doctors, nurses, pharmacists, vets, physiotherapists, anything that you want to study, we can help you with it. Language, grammar underpins all of that. Okay. All right. Have a really nice day. And I will see you soon.